You decide to take a cruise by yourself. Week in the Caribbean, maybe a Mediterranean sailing. You've done the research, picked the ship, and now you're on the booking page. The fare looks right, $800 per person. You put in one adult, you hit continue. The number on the next screen is $1,600. You go back, check the occupancy field, one adult, one cabin, $1,600. You try it again with a different date, same result. You look for a discount code you forgot to enter, there isn't one. This is the moment most solo travelers meet the single supplement, and almost universally, the assumption is the same. The cruise line added something, a penalty fee, a solo surcharge, some clause buried in the fine print that charges you extra for showing up alone. It feels like being taxed for a choice. Here's what's actually happening. Cruise lines don't sell berths, they sell cabins. The per-person rate displayed on every booking page, that $800, is always half of what the cruise intends to collect for that room. The cabin is the unit. The per-person language is a pricing convention, not a pricing promise. When two people book that cabin, they each pay $800. The cabin generates $1,600. The cruise line got what it needed. When you book alone, the cabin still has the same target revenue. You're just the only person contributing to it. You think something is being added to your price. Nothing is being added. There's a cabin that costs $1,600 and the fact that you have no one to split it with. The number didn't change, your share of it did. This is what single supplement actually means, which is, despite the name, not a supplement at all. The cruise industry's terminology implies an add-on sitting on top of a base price. There's no add-on. There's a cabin with a fixed revenue target and one occupant instead of two. Understanding why the industry built it this way requires understanding what the second person actually contributes. The fixed costs of a cabin, the room steward's labor, the square footage allocated in the ship's blueprint, the linens changed every day, the electricity keeping your balcony lit at midnight, don't change based on how many people sleep in it. The cruise pays for all of that whether one person shows up or two. When a couple books, the second person is nearly pure margin for the line. Dinners, drinks, shore excursions, maybe an afternoon in the spa. The cabin itself is already funded by the first fare. The cruise didn't build its economics around the solo traveler. It built them around two people splitting one room, priced everything accordingly, and then had to decide what to charge when a single passenger arrived. The answer it landed on: the full price of the cabin, every time. Port fees and taxes are one minor exception. Those are genuinely assessed per person and don't double for a solo traveler, but they're a small fraction of the total fare. The cruise fare itself, the main figure, comes out at full cabin price, regardless. That number on the screen isn't a fine. It's the cost of a product designed for two, purchased by one. Here's the part worth sitting with. Roughly a third of American adults describe themselves as single, and cruising skews toward older demographics, a group with a substantial share of solo travelers, widows, divorced travelers, and people who simply prefer to travel alone. This isn't a fringe customer the industry stumbles across occasionally. It's a significant portion of potential passengers walking into a pricing architecture built for someone else entirely. For a long time, the industry's main response was a program called Guaranteed Share. A few lines, notably Holland America, would offer to pair willing solo travelers with a same-gender stranger to split the supplement. You'd book solo, flag your interest in sharing, and the line would match you if another solo came along. If no match materialized, you sometimes sailed alone at a reduced rate anyway. The program worked in a functional, mildly awkward way. It's largely faded from mainstream offerings since. The real shift came from a different direction entirely. In 2010, Norwegian Cruise Line launched the Norwegian Epic, and instead of adjusting the supplement on its existing cabins, Norwegian did something that had no precedent at a mainstream cruise line. They built new cabins from scratch, 128 of them, designed physically and architecturally for one person, complete with a private studio lounge for solo travelers only, a dedicated social space that came with the booking. The studios carry no single supplement, priced at roughly what a paired traveler pays per head, near the standard inside cabin rate, not the full cabin price. They're meaningfully cheaper than booking a standard double alone, not because Norwegian got generous, but because the math made sense. A standard cabin sailing empty generates zero revenue. A solo traveler in a studio at close to the per-person inside rate generates something at a lower operational cost per cabin than leaving the room dark. Norwegian wasn't solving a fairness problem, it was solving a revenue problem, and the solution it landed on happens to be a smaller ship inside a bigger ship, engineered specifically for one person. The fix to the solo supplement wasn't a pricing policy change, it was a blueprint change. Norwegian put solo travelers on the architectural drawings of the ship itself. More lines have added dedicated solo inventory in the years since the Epic proved the model. The product category exists now in a way it simply didn't before 2010. Which gets to the obvious question the math raises. Can you actually work around this? 3 real paths. The first is finding one of those purpose-built solo cabins. Norwegian studios are the most established, and a handful of other lines have begun adding their own solo-specific inventory worth checking before you book. The second is timing. Revenue management desks track cabin fill rates on every sailing, and when a ship is moving slowly, the single supplement is reliably the first lever that softens. Repositioning sailings, ships relocating from one seasonal market to another, often on itineraries that don't sell as aggressively as the Caribbean high season, tend to have the most room to move. A solo traveler watching the pricing on a transatlantic repositioning in November can sometimes find the supplement dropped to 50 or 60%, which brings the total meaningfully closer to what a paired traveler pays per head. The third path is finding a line that actively works to close the gap on select sailings. Virgin Voyages, which launched in 2021, regularly promotes a reduced single supplement on certain itineraries, cutting the second-person fare by a significant margin on eligible cabin categories. It's still a per-person pricing structure underneath, but on the right sailing, the effective cost for a solo traveler can come close to what a paired traveler pays per head. Worth checking before you book. One thing that genuinely doesn't work is booking as 2 passengers and simply not bringing the second. Occupancy is declared at booking and flows directly into the ship's lifeboat manifest and safety headcount, not just the billing system. The cabin number is an operational document the ship uses for emergencies, not a hotel folio that's mostly administrative. There's no workaround there. The single supplement isn't a permanent wall, it's an inventory yield problem, and like any yield problem, it has pressure points. The right sailing, the right ship, the right time of year, where the gap closes enough to feel manageable. The cruise industry is building more solo infrastructure every year. The supplement on standard cabins isn't going anywhere. A couple splitting a $1,600 cabin is a clean transaction, and it will always be the preferred booking. But the product category around that transaction is quietly expanding because the revenue math behind the Norwegian studios turned out to work. Go back to where this started. 1 adult, 1 cabin, $1,600 on the screen. You know now what you're actually looking at. That isn't a fee for traveling alone. It isn't a penalty for not bringing someone. It's a cabin built for 2, with a revenue target that doesn't move regardless of how many people walk through the door. The solo traveler who knows that makes the decision on their own terms, whether the full cabin price is worth it for the itinerary they want, or whether they find the right repositioning sailing, or look for a ship with solo-specific inventory, or wait for the supplement to soften on a slow cruise. It is not a surcharge for showing up alone. It is the price of a cabin that was never designed for one. That's another one for the cruise files. If you want to learn more about what goes on behind the giant cruise ships, everything from the scams on board to the secrets below deck, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.